I'm Gary Williams. If you would, please leave a review on iTunes. Your reviews help other people find this podcast.
And I love the fact that you view your customers as not the ones who just show up today and buy the food today, but you view customers as people you see regularly that have been here over long periods of time. They're people you've become a part of their life over long periods of time, and they've become a part of your life.
You hit the nail on the head.
Coming to you straight from Fremont, California, this is the Fremont Podcast, dedicated to telling the stories of the past and present of the people and places of the city of Fremont, one conversation at a time.
Hello, Fremont. Ricky told me to sit on the top of a chain link fence and tell you this is episode 87 of the Fremont Podcast.
Now, here's your host, Ricky B.
If I want to hear people's story about their life and they have a business, more than likely those intertwine in a very important way. And so, sure, I want to hear about the business, but I'm more interested in hearing about that person's life. You know?
Well, I mean, that's me once we get into this.
Okay, yeah. Well, let's jump into it. So, today I am with Bill. Is it Renetti?
Yeah, Bill Renetti. Yes.
Bill Renetti. Bill Renetti. Are you the owner operator of?
I'm the owner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of Massimo's.
Massimo's restaurant. Yes.
Awesome. And we are sitting in your office connected to the restaurant.
Correct.
Yeah. So I want to get to know a little bit about you. What how long have you been the owner, and what is the story behind you being the current owner of Massimo's?
In 1976, my late father, founded this restaurant, and it was his lifelong passion to be a restaurateur. He loved to cook and loved to entertain, and so he worked for his father prior to that, and his father had a gas station in East Oakland. It was a very successful gas station, big gas station. They had, they repaired cars, and they also had a used car lot. But the area was slowly deteriorating, and it was time to sell.
That was his father. That was your grandfather.
Yeah, my grandfather. Okay. So my dad kind of followed in his dad's footsteps, and it really wasn't what he wanted. And my dad we have 4 children, and my dad, and while he was working for his father, he also was moonlighting at night, working in restaurants. He worked as a bartender. He started doing some catering, and he really liked it. And that was his passion. And then his father was going to retire and sell the business, so the timing came. So my dad, anyway. So long story short, my dad bought the business. He had a partner, and the partner lasted a year, and then my dad bought him out.
So this was your grandfather going from
my grandfather sold his business and retired.
Oh, just retired.
And then my dad, at that point, bought this business.
Okay.
And he had a partner for the first year, and then after the first year, my dad bought the partner out.
Okay. So this was an existing business before your dad.
Yes, this was a restaurant. Kind of a little history about this place. Years ago, there was a restaurant in Fremont. The International Kitchen was called. It was like a really cool restaurant way back in the 50s and 60s. It was up kind of like past the BART tracks.
Okay.
Up off of Maury, where Maury and Peralta kind of intersect. Yeah. And in those days, it was like where everybody in Fremont went to eat. And then they had a fire, and it burnt down. And the owners were looking for a place to relocate. And this shopping center, which was founded by a gentleman by the name of Jack Stevenson, who Stevenson Boulevard is named after. Oh. And also, years ago, this property was an airport. I mean, there's a lot of history in this property.
There was an airport right here?
This whole property from Maury to Stevenson and Blake out to the freeway was an airport. So Stevenson's bought this many years ago, and they farmed or whatever. So, long story short, so these guys, they needed to replace their restaurant, so they opened up a restaurant here, and it was a German restaurant, and it was called the Lorelei. And they had it there was 2 guys, and they had it for like 3 years, and they decided they didn't want to do it anymore. And that's when my dad found it.
Okay.
Actually, there was a union rep that found it and told the then partner that my dad had about it, and anyway, lunchtime.
I'm curious too, real quick. What brought your dad from Oakland to Fremont?
Well, what happened is my dad had, when he had worked part-time, there was a gentleman that owned a restaurant in Oakland in the Diamond District.
Okay.
Which is off of like Fruitvale area. And this guy had retired, and this guy got approached by these, like I said, these union guys that knew about this restaurant here for sale. So they approached him and they said, "Hey, do you know anybody who wants to buy a restaurant in Fremont?" Well, and this guy, his name was Mario. Mario goes, "Well, I have a good friend of mine who wants to open a restaurant, and let me talk to him." And so he talked to my dad, and then they made an agreement to the partnership, and they bought the restaurant together.
Wow!
And Mario was much older than my dad, and so my dad felt it was better to get Mario out and have my dad run it. So my dad took it over, and it was funny because we got the keys. I never forget the day. We got the keys on Halloween, 1976, and it was on a Sunday. And the night before, the 30th, it was the last night of the other owners. And we walked in this place and it was kind of messed up, so we had to come in here and kind of clean it up. And I was a freshman in high school, and so I basically came down here that Sunday, and we spent the whole day here cleaning this place, getting it ready to open. And then on that Monday, which was November 1st, they opened up.
Oh my goodness! So it was a German restaurant. They closed down, didn't clean up afterwards.
Well, I mean, they cleaned up, but the kitchen was kind of messed up, and we had to go in there and kind of straighten stuff.
But then you opened up Monday morning,
and we left all the decor the same. At first, I think the sign might have even been their sign initially, and then we eventually got our own sign. But we had all their decor. I mean, it was like you walked in and there was like these swords on the walls, like there were swords and, and it was definitely, it had a German, but these chandeliers were very, German and everything. And it was dark and kind of old school. But the thing that kind of saved us, and for many years, was this was actually two businesses in one.
Okay.
It was a neighborhood bar and a restaurant. And when you walked in, we've done a lot of remodeling over the years, but when you walked in originally, the door going into the bar, there was a door on the far side when you walked into the bar. And when you walked into the restaurant, you had to kind of walk down a little corridor and then turn right into the restaurant. So it was almost like there were two separate places. And the bar was, like I said, it was a neighborhood bar. And everybody in there, a lot of people who hung out there never ate there. They just drank there.
Huh.
And it was a very interesting bar. It had above the bar, it had these like chicken wire, and it had these hooks, and there was bottles, all these empty wine bottles hanging from the bar. Huh. And it was kind of cool, except when we had the earthquake in '89, and the bartender ran like crazy because all the bottles started shaking, pretty crazy. But but it was unique. So for years, I mean, and then the guys used to hang out here were like FAA, which is right not too on Central Avenue.
Yeah.
All the FAA guys, they get off work, they come in the bar. There used to be a place here, which is now Lucky's, but years ago it was a department store called Gemco, and the guys they had a grocery department in there, and the grocery guys, they were stockers, and they would stock all night, and they get off like 7 a.m, and then we'd open the bar early, and these guys come in, and they'd be drinking like 7 o'clock in the morning here, early in the morning. And that was like their after work, and I show up here like at 10 o'clock, and these guys already be hammered. It'd be kind of funny, it was kind of a trip.
Wow.
So anyways, that's kind of how it started. So
you had two businesses though operating at once.
It's still one, but what saved us in the early years of the business was, and as we were growing the business, is we had a solid bar.
Okay.
And the revenue that the bar generated paid the rent,
gotcha.
paid the bills. And then, like when we first opened up, we were open for lunch and dinner. I believe we were open 7 days a week. And in those days, our lunch business, when we did lunch, we only served lunch in the bar area at lunch. And we only had like maybe 8 tables in there.
Okay.
And then as time went on, we started using the rest of the restaurant. And also the restaurant was smaller. When we first had the restaurant, our restaurant was about a third of the size that it is now. And then we've added on twice since then. So, that's kind of how it started. And so we started, just doing lunches, and then we started doing dinners. We had dinners, and then we had a small little party room, so we started doing parties.
Okay.
And we had some family parties. I remember we had some family parties there and stuff. I remember we brought in music. We had a piano player that would come play here on weekends and in the bar. And
well, let me ask you this: so Massimo's, where did the name come from? And then was that was that name and kind of the concept behind the restaurant already developed when you guys took over, or did it kind of like take on a life of its own? What was the intention of what did you want the restaurant to be like, or your dad want the restaurant to be like when he first took over?
So the funny thing is in today's world, whenever you do any type of business, you do a plan,
right? A business plan or
business
whatever,
plan, and you do a lot of stuff. Well, that's not how it was when we did it. It was like my dad was the king of the seat of your pants. My dad wasn't a planner, but he was fortunate. But in those days, we just opened up, and we really, they had an idea, they had a menu. It was a unique menu. It really wasn't a real Italian menu. There was a few Italian dishes on it. It was a very unique menu.
But he specifically wanted to have an Italian-like.
Yeah. A heritage restaurant. But at the time, he wasn't really. At the time, we didn't know what we were. It was funny because he knew we wanted to have a restaurant. Like I said, we did have some Italian things on there, but a lot of things weren't Italian. We had some unique dishes on there. I'll give you an example. There was one dish which is one of my favorite dishes we've always had. We don't have it on our menu now, but we can make it. We called it chicken avocado. It was a chicken breast that we had like a tomato cumin sauce on the bottom, and then we had guacamole on top, and we had tomato and then melted jack cheese. And that was one of our signature dishes way back in the day. We also had abalone on our menu back then, and abalone in those days was very inexpensive, and it was like, everybody was eating abalone because it was inexpensive. Today it's very expensive, and it's also hard to get. And we had lobster on our menu and things like that, and we had some meats. We didn't have a lot of pasta. We had a couple pasta dishes, but they weren't we did not have lasagna on our menu. We did not have spaghetti meatballs and stuff like that. We had more or less we had a couple signature pasta dishes, like one we still have on our menu today, a crab and spaghetti dish. Because our chef that we hired, first chef, he came from a sort of a seafood background, so we kind of had that on our menu.
Okay.
So we sort of started, just like I said, with no real game plan, and we just kind of built the business.
You kind of knew what you did well, or the things that you thought would go well, and you just did those things.
We'll be right back. You can hear the rest of this conversation in just a moment.
Recently, my family was trying to figure out what we were going to do for dinner. We wanted a place where we were going to be served good food, we were going to be treated well, and we wanted a good atmosphere. So we decided to go to Billy Roy's Burgers. Not only does Billy Roy's have the best burgers in town, but they've also got great salads, they've got great sandwiches, and they've got great desserts. The service was efficient and friendly, and to top it all off, it's the beginning of football season. And Billy Roy's has more than adequate screens to watch your game. At Billy Roy's, you won't miss a play. If you're looking for a place to enjoy good food and good service, I recommend Billy Roy's Burgers on Thornton Avenue. I want to tell you about Milk and Honey Cafe. They're a family-owned restaurant located on Fremont Boulevard in North Fremont. They serve fresh noodles, stir-fries, bentos, soup, vegetarian dishes, boba drinks, and so much more. And for Fremont podcast listeners, if you make a purchase of $50 or more, you get a complimentary Thai tea or a fruit tea with your purchase. You can find out how to dine in or order at milkandhoneyfremont.com. For more information and links, be sure to check out our show notes. If you want to hear more of their story, check out episode 8 on the Fremont podcast.
And now, back to our conversation.
Let me quickly tell you how I got how my involvement was. So I was a freshman in high school when my dad started, and the first month or so I didn't work at all, and then so we took over the restaurant in November. And
it was nice that your dad gave you a month break.
Well, I was in school, so
right. Yeah,
we lived in Oakland, so what I have to do is I went to a school in Oakland, and my grandfather would pick me up from school because my grandparents lived near us. They would take me to the San Leandro BART station, and then I'd take BART out here from San Leandro, get off at the Fremont station, then I jump on the bus, and I take the bus, and the bus would drop me off in front of Denny's, and that's how I came to work.
This was in 1977?
Yeah, like 77,
Wow.
78 or something
Wow.
like that. And I went to a really good school. I went to Catholic high school in Oakland.
Okay.
I went to Bishop O'Dowd, which I'm very proud that
Yeah.
I've gone there. I wanted, my dream was I wanted to become like an engineer or an architect or something like that, because I've always loved to build things.
Okay.
So I couldn't get into like Cal Poly or any of those schools. So I got accepted to the Hayward State, and I also got accepted to, so I was going to go to Chabot for a while, and I went to Chabot to register for my classes, and I just didn't have a good feeling about Chabot. I just didn't feel, going from O'Dowd to Chabot, I felt was like a step down to me, because O'Dowd was such a great college prep school. I mean, like I said, Chabot's probably a great school
Sure.
and all that. I came here, and my dad says, "Hey, well, you can always work for me." So that's kind of, so that was like the turning point.
Did you not go to college then, or you
No.
did go to school?
So what I
Okay.
did what I did was instead of going to Chabot, I enrolled in Cal State Hayward.
Okay, gotcha.
And from that day forward, my focus was to learn to come in the business with my dad. So all during college, I basically worked here a lot, because now I had a car, and I was living in Oakland, and I basically would drive from Oakland to Hayward, go to school. Then after school, I'd come here and work. And I worked all through college. It took me 5 years to graduate, so I took an extra year, took
Okay.
less classes, so I can work more.
Focus more on this. Yeah. Did you have? You said that you were interested in building or architecture. Is that what you eventually studied, or did you study something more along the lines of the business?
So when I went to Hayward, I focused on business. So
Okay.
I was a business student. When I graduated in '85, that's when I basically just dove head into the business.
Okay.
And my dad never really gave me any position. The only position he ever gave me in the company was a busser. Everything else, I just kind of just like either took it over or did it.
So you basically had to earn your place.
Well, I just sort of, I mean, I wouldn't say earned it. I mean, I just did it. So I basically, I became a server. I think when he was 18, he let me become a server. And then after that, I became like a manager. And then after that, I started doing all the buying. I started buying all the liquor. I was making the wine list. I was making the menus. Eventually I brought in computers. I mean, I basically did everything. And my dad, like I said, his whole deal was he loved to cook, and he loved to tend bar, and he loved to hang out with his friends, but he wasn't really that business guy.
Gotcha.
And
Yeah.
that's where I excelled. And
Yeah.
that's where I really, flourished in that. And I kind of took over the business part, and I ran the business. Then I lost my dad in 2002.
Okay.
And I basically, even when my dad was alive, I've been actually running. I can say I've been running this business since 1985.
Wow. I think that the story of you and of you following in your dad's footsteps, or him starting the business, kind of creating the cultural environment of the business, hanging out with his friends, the food that's being prepared, and all that stuff. It's just really cool. And then for you to really, I don't want to say buy into it, but you really see what's happening here, and then following in that footsteps by championing the business side of things is really cool. Have you enjoyed? Do you enjoy some of the other elements like cooking and some of the creation of the dishes and other parts of the business?
Well, when I said earlier about building, I love to build, and I think that I built something different though. Instead of building a home I built the business, and I not only built the business, I built an environment. I was very influential in 1991, 92. We did a major renovation of our restaurant. We made our bar bigger. We put a new door in. We moved some doors around and stuff, and put some windows in. And I've always had this vision, and every time we've had any type of change in, like a few years ago we had a flood, and I was very, my vision of changing it, and I mean, we've taken this little hole in the wall shopping center space that we've had for 47 years, and I mean, we've made it into this beautiful restaurant, but it's all because I was determined to keep it going. And I'm always trying to make it better. I'm always, like when we're always painting, or we're always getting our carpets clean, or we're always if there's something I can improve, I'll do it. I'm always trying to make things better.
That's great.
I just bought some new. 2 months ago, I bought a new piece of equipment in my kitchen. I bought something I wanted to buy for a long time. I bought a steakhouse broiler, which is pretty good. So let me back up a little bit. You asked me earlier about the word, about how we got the name.
Yeah, Massimo's, right?
So it's actually initially I didn't know this story of it. I just knew it was my great grandfather's first name, and it was my dad's middle name.
Huh. Okay.
So my dad was born in 1937, I believe, and in those days, his mom and dad were both born in California. His grandparents were born in Italy. But in those days, if you didn't have a common name like John, Fred, William, whatever, you were looked down upon. It was tradition in Italian family that the firstborn son would take the paternal father's grandfather's first name and the maternal grandfather's middle name.
Oh, interesting.
So my grandmother felt if you call him Massimo in those days, he might get when he got into school, kids might make fun of him because he's got a weird, funny name. They named him William after his father.
Okay.
My grandfather's name was William, and then he took his grandfather's middle name. So his name was William Massimo Rinetti. So my uncle told me this story and basically Massimo was born in Italy, in the northern part of Italy. And in those days, in the early 1900s, him and his brothers got on the ship and they came to the United States never to see their parents again, which is kind of sad. I mean, here they are, like teenagers, and they get on a ship and they're never gonna go home and see their parents again. And that's how they had to do it because they were struggling, whatever. In the first few years we had kind of had a revolving door of like chefs and cooks and stuff, and then finally I forget it was in the early 80s. My dad got approached by this guy that we knew, and he says, "Are you looking for a chef?" And my dad goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, I got the guy for you." And so he sent this guy, and the ironic thing was he lived like right down the street, yet he was working in the peninsula. And originally this guy worked in San Francisco, and he was a really good chef. And his name is, he's still alive. His name is Jose Luis.
Okay.
And he was trained by one of the best chefs in San Francisco back in the day. And this guy was like the Wolfgang Puck of San Francisco back in the 60s and 70s. And the guy's name was Roger Bertola.
Okay.
And he was a famous chef in San Francisco, involved in a bunch of restaurants. His most signature restaurant was a restaurant called Doro's. Incredible. I went there once. It was incredible. Just one of these restaurants that was like, they had lace tablecloths. They had tablecloths but lace on top, and they had their own ashtrays with their logos on them, and crystal chandeliers, and it was a beautiful place.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a place that you would go like on a very, very special occasion or something like that.
Yeah.
So that was the turning point for us, and then that's when our focus was we were going to bring a San Francisco style restaurant to Fremont. That was our plan, and we did. And Louis, his name was Jose Luis, but I call him Louis. Louis cooked that way, and he was great. His food was phenomenal.
Wow.
And he was our chef for 25 years, and like I said, he lived right down the street, and he just brought in a culture that really changed us, and it really put us on the map. There was an article one day on the front page, and somebody said that there's no restaurants in Fremont, and there was a picture of my dad and the chef on the front page of the paper saying, yes, there is a restaurant in Fremont. Louis retired from here probably, he stayed till about 2007, 8 or something like that. And then he retired, and then we've kept it going. But the area has changed a lot over the years.
For sure.
So, I mean, and we've lost a lot. Unfortunately, we lost a lot of our customers. A lot of them are no longer with us because they were a certain age group that is no longer with us.
Yeah.
And so we lost a lot of them. And then a lot of people have moved away. We've had a lot of customers that moved out of the area.
I'm going to bring up like a little semantics point that I think I've said before. When you go to a place that has a sign on the door that says restroom for customers only, I joke because I've talked to people and I said, what makes a customer? Is a customer somebody who buys something on that day in that moment, or is a customer somebody who has been a regular over time? Because I've gone to places where I want to use the bathroom, but I don't need to buy anything right now, but I've been here, I come here every week, or whatever. But my point is that you're referring to customers in your statement as your customers have moved away or passed away. And I love the fact that you view your customers as not the ones who just show up today and buy the food today, but you view customers as people you see regularly that have been here over long periods of time. They're people you've become a part of their life over long periods of time, and they become a part of your life over long periods of time. So I love the fact that you're referring to customers in not just in a moment, but in kind of like the longevity of a lifetime, I guess.
You hit the nail on the head. We have developed so many relationships with people, and all our closest friends today are people that we have met here. That they are, people that my wife. I met my wife here. She was a customer. I met I had a friend. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us, but this guy came in here. He was young. He was in the trucking business, and he was young at the time, and he was just getting his feet wet in the trucking business. And he loved to have a few cocktails, and he loved to like mix with different people. And so he started coming in here, and he became one of our closest friends. And very close. That's great. We went to he moved away to Arizona, and we went to his home, and he became like a brother. Fremont Bank, Fremont Bank story. We first came to Fremont. We first came here. We banked. We had a bank relationship with Bank of America but then the Fremont Bank started coming in, and we met. And then my dad developed a relationship with Morris Hyman, who was the founder of Fremont Bank, and then Mike Wallace, who's the chairman of the board, and we developed this relationship. And they're part of our family. I've traveled. My dad's traveled. We traveled with these guys. They have They invite us to their homes, and they have homes other places, and they've taken us to their homes, cool. And we're a part. So, my customers, and the hardest thing for me though today is the fact that a lot of my customers are older, and it's sad because probably one of the greatest. And I'm going to get emotional when I say this, but I had a customer when I was waiting tables, and they would come in. It was a couple. They lived here in Fremont, and they were in the construction business, and they had a really good job in a really big construction company. They were on a project manager or some construction company, and they used to come in for dinner every Friday night and have dinner here. And they always dressed up really nice, and they always came in, and I knew what she drank. I knew what he drank. When he walked in, I put his cocktail on the table, and she had her cocktail, and then they had a glass of wine, and they always had nice dinner, and blah blah blah. And then as years went by, they would still come in. They didn't come in as often. They'd always come in. They used to come in on New Year's Eve. Then they would come in on their birthdays, and they come in on their birthdays. And we got to be really close. And I got to be close to them, really close. So a few months ago, the wife sent me an email that her husband died.
Oh my!
And what blew me away is they didn't call Massimo's. They called it Billy's Place.
Aw.
And which made me feel, they didn't come here. They didn't go to Massimo's. They go, what are we doing tonight? Her name was Barbara, and his name was Roy. Where do you want to go tonight, Roy? We're going to go to Billy's Place for dinner. So that meant a lot. So that's just one story, and there's hundreds of other stories like that. Hundreds. We've had. God, so many people and families and generations. Generations of people, and And so it's been a great ride. But the sad part now is a lot of those people are moving away or passing on, and it's.
We'll be right back with this conversation in just a moment.
Jennifer at Petrocelli Homes in Niles treats everyone who walks through her door like family, always looking out for their best interests. When I'm trying to make a big decision in my life, I turn to family. When you choose Petrocelli Homes to help you buy or sell your home, you're choosing family. Contact Jennifer Petrocelli today and see for yourself why she's the right choice for your real estate needs.
The Ohlone College Flea Market would like you to be a vendor. We talked to some of the vendors who were there last month, and this is what they had to say. Are you planning on coming back here?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. At least one more month. That I was able to get a deal for 2 months in a row. I hear there's also a 6-month deal. And depending on how this and the next month go, I will definitely look into that.
Awesome. Prior to being here, have you sold at other flea markets?
I have not. This is my first.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm okay. About you?
I'm good.
Everything okay?
Everything is fantastic. How is it going today?
How was the salad? Everybody good?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
People seem happy.
Yeah, everybody happy. The manager, the lady is very nice. Last month, I got the emergency. She said, no problem, we keep it for you. The people nice, the people working here, everybody is nice. I'm happy with the guys, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
So what kind of food vendors are you looking for, Van?
So we've been providing coffee and bakery for our for the people here, but we would love to give that business to a vendor that can provide baked goods and especially coffee.
And what is the phone number and what is the website?
The phone number is 510-659-6285, and the website is www.ohlone.edu/flea-market.
The Ohlone College Flea Market is happening every second Saturday of the month from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Ohlane's Fremont campus.
And now back to our conversation.
Yeah, I was going to say, it seems to me that you're part of the fabric of the community in a huge way, but even more so, I think what you are talking about as far as the community that you have experienced here at the restaurant and that you've had for so many years is what makes a community. You know, the interaction with people, the investing in each other's lives, the interest of what is going on in the home life or on the job or whatever. A lot of those conversations only take place in a place like Massimo's or Billy's place, right?
Well, we've had a lot of, I had a sign. I had a sign that I had it in my. As soon as you walked in the restaurant, I wrote a little sign in.
Okay.
And it just said welcome, and I said, "This is not a restaurant. It's not a restaurant. It's a special place. This is a special place." There's been so many memories. I mean, people have had so many memories in this restaurant. They've had celebrations of life. They've had birthdays, anniversaries. They've had first dates. We've had proposals here. We've had business meetings. We've had just it goes on and on. There's so many. I mean, we used to have a group of people that used to live here, and they would hang out here every day. A little side note, and this is a great story. So,
yeah.
So my grandfather worked in a gas station for his whole life. He wasn't really a big people person. When he sold the business and he retired, my dad had him come and help here. So initially he came down and he helped my dad. So then he started tending bar. And my grandfather would tend bar on Saturdays and Sundays during the day. And to him, it was the greatest thing in the world. He loved it. He was now, and he just, he wasn't, the drinks were easy, they weren't special, but he loved it. He was talking to people. He got to hang out with people. And my grandfather did it till his late 90s.
Wow.
80s, excuse me.
Wow.
Late 80s. And he looked forward all week long to come here on Saturday and bartend. And he had a following, and these people would come every Saturday religiously and hang out with him.
That's cool.
And these people could have been sitting home, playing golf, whatever, but they came to Massimo's on Saturday to hang out with Bill Renetti Sr. and drink because it was such a great place.
Well, I think that that's something that is missing, not just in our community, but all over the place. I don't think we do that anymore. I think we aren't really invested in community the way that we used to be. And I do think that that's something that is important for us as a city and as a community, that we remember the relationships that we have with people. I'm curious, as let's just say there's people listening to the podcast that have never been here. Maybe they've never even heard of Massimo's before. What are some of the things that now, as a restaurant, that you are doing that are you proud of, or things that you hope that that you would want the community to experience? People that come in, maybe it's a dish or dishes that you make or an experience. What are some of the things? I mean, you said you just bought a brand new, or something you've been wanting to buy for a long time.
Yeah, I just bought a brand new steak broiler. It's a broiler that cooks steaks up to it's close to 1,000 degrees.
Wow.
It's what all the best steakhouses in the country use. One of the things I want to do is, you can go out and eat. You can go eat anywhere. If you're hungry, you can go eat. There's so many choices to go eat. Well, but I don't want to. When you come to Massimo's, you don't come to eat. You come to dine. There's a difference between eating and dining. Dining is where you take your time. It's where you come in and you sit at a nice table. We got tablecloths on the table now. We try to keep the lights at a nice, comfortable level. We have nice music playing, and we want you to come in and enjoy. We don't want you to come in and feel rushed. We want you to come in and enjoy. We try to have, a nice menu. We try to keep it contemporary, but we also have some classic stuff on the menu. We have by that broiler now we do fillets, we do New Yorks, we do ribeyes. We also have a lot of fresh seafood. We also know that there's a lot of vegetarians in town, so we do have some vegetarian options. We're adding some vegan options to our menu, so we want to be that. I'm the person that's always trying to improve. On Instagram, I follow chefs all over the country. In fact, I just found this one chef that owns a restaurant in Connecticut, and oh my God, I wish I can jump on a plane and go there tomorrow. His food looks amazing, and I get ideas. I'm always getting ideas. I'm always reading. I recently really invested into my bar. I have a young bartender who works for me. Right now, he's only working Saturday nights when he's on the floor, but he's here other nights. He is a mixologist. He makes incredible drinks. So if people want to come down and have a great cocktail, and he'll make it for you. And what's great about him is you walk into we have a cocktail menu, but you walk in and you say, make me something special. He'll make you a drink you never had before.
Wow.
It'd be incredible.
Wow.
He's very talented young kid. He was trained in L.A. at a really cool bar down there. Unfortunately, COVID took a hit on
Absolutely,
us financially.
Yeah.
But as money comes in, and
right.
I'm always spending. I'm always buying things.
Right.
I'm always improving things. I mean, at some point, I want to buy new china. At some point, but it's something I can't afford right now.
Sure.
At some point, I want to buy new banquet chairs for my restaurant. But like I said, I can't afford it right now.
Yeah.
But eventually, some people just sit there and go, okay, I'm content, I'm happy. Let's just keep it going.
It's worked for me for so long. We're going to keep it the same way. Yeah.
But I personally feel that we can be better.
Yeah.
And I know I can be better. I think there's areas that we can improve upon, and I'm improving on them.
So if there's people also interested in having their events, birthday parties, anniversaries, are you guys still providing space to be able to do that?
Yes, that's what separates us from every restaurant in town. There's only a couple restaurants in town, independents, that offer what we offer.
Okay.
And we have 5 private banquet rooms. So we are.
You have 5 private banquet rooms?
5 private rooms. We have one room that holds 12. We have another room that holds up to 20. Another room that holds up to. We have 2 more rooms that hold 30, and then we have 4 rooms that open up into one big room.
Okay.
And we also have one room we have ways to make rooms,
to move things around so that you have space. Yeah.
So I have walls that move. So we have a lot of flexibility. Plus, we have our patio, and we could do 60 people on the patio.
Wow.
If somebody wanted to have an outdoor party, or if they want to have especially this time of year, they want to do an outdoor event, we can do it on patio. So we have it, and then we've only done it. Well, we should do it once a year for this insurance company, but we do a buyout. I mean, I had years ago I had a company that bought out the whole restaurant. And I would do that too,
Wow.
if they wanted to buy the whole, if they needed space for a couple hundred people,
For sure.
we can do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, that's good to know. I'm gonna show my cards. I actually didn't know about your restaurant. I've lived here for 9 years. I didn't know about your restaurant until about maybe a year and a half ago, and somebody sent me a video of a couple girls who grew up here in Fremont who had their own band. They were musicians, and they were doing live music here.
Yeah,
and somebody
Audio
Blonde. Yeah,
Great,
that's exactly
great
right.
group.
Yeah, so they were doing music here, and someone sent me a video and said you should have them on the podcast, which we did. So Audio Blonde was on the podcast last year. But that was the first time I'd ever heard of Massimo's. I didn't know what it was. And then since then, I've been following at a distance and just trying to figure out what it is. And then when I heard that we should have you on the podcast, I jumped on that. So
That's our biggest challenge. I think a lot of people don't know we're here.
Right.
I mean, we're kind of
Right.
hidden. Our location is not, it's kind of hidden a little bit. Our signage is old. It's not the greatest
Yeah.
signage. So, but this town has changed. I mean, I drive down Maury or the big streets, and there's homes being built everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
And I don't think people know that we exist. And that's why I want to add new things, because
That's great.
there's a new demographic coming into town, and they want things. They don't want what we did 20 years ago.
Sure.
They want
Sure.
what we can do today.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, like we have music now. We're trying new music. We're gonna try new music on weekends until this outside in the patio until the weather changes.
that's great.
We wanted to launch a separate menu for the bar, so people just want to have cocktails and have some appetite, some nice heavy appetizers. We're kind of working on that. We haven't launched that yet. We're going to fine tune our menus. I'm always trying to improve my wine lists, and I listen to customers. I have a customer comes in and he goes, I love your restaurant, and he goes, how come you don't have any Amarone on your menu? He goes, I love Amarone. I said, well, I have it now. I just bought a case. It's coming tomorrow. So I know this customer. I know well. I'll call him up and say, hey, Roger.
We got it.
I got Amarone, and I'm sure he'll be in for dinner.
There you go.
I listen to my customers.
That's good.
I listen to my customers. Nobody likes Yelp, but when a customer goes on Yelp and they rip us up for whatever reason, I read those articles.
Yeah.
And I read them, and where I can fix, I fix. Where I can't fix, I can't fix. And
That's right.
sometimes people just vent their frustrations.
Yeah.
There's nothing to do about it. But if they say something that has some constructive criticism in there, and if it's something I can fix, I will fix it.
You want to learn from it.
Exactly.
You want to learn from it.
And
That's great.
I'm a person that, and I have coaches. I have a business coach. I meet once a week with a business coach online.
Wow,
he's
that's
awesome.
awesome.
He's out of New York City. I've had coaches. I believe that I can learn more.
Yeah, that's great.
So I'm always learning.
I love that. So a question for you. We're going to wrap it up here in a second, but I've asked this to a number of people that I've interviewed. Let's say 10 years, 15 years from now, when people look back at your restaurant here, or when, let's say, even 20 years from now, what are some of the things that you hope to leave with our community? What are some of the things that maybe the legacy that you want to be known for in our community, and what is it that you hope to see change in our community?
The biggest thing that's missing in Fremont, and it really showed us, it really came out during COVID, was the lack of community. I live in Pleasanton, and some of these smaller cities, they all kind of got together and they all kind of worked together, and all the merchants kind of banded together and they kind of helped. But Fremont's so spread out that we couldn't do that. And I think I am a director of the chamber. I am a director of the Chamber of Commerce, and I try to help. But I think that we need more community in this town. I would love, and unfortunately we don't have a downtown, but I would wish we would have like a street fair, like maybe once a month, to get people to come and participate and get businesses to participate in a street fair. I mean, this time of year, I mean, take an empty parking lot and let all the restaurants and businesses come and let people know that we're here. Because a lot of people don't know about all these little hole-in-the-wall places that are in town, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we did the Fremont Festival of the Arts, but the weather was so hot and it's so big and so spread out. And
and most of the customers that come to that aren't from Fremont.
Exactly. You know, I mean, again, we don't have, like I said, we don't have that downtown, but we can make a makeshift downtown just by getting people together. I mean, years ago, this shopping center, for example, they had a merchants association, and they would have like a get together once in a while where you could just we all have like a big party out in the parking lot. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm just saying that the Fremont needs more community, and we need that from everybody. And I think, and then once people realize that we're here, and then we all can feed off of each other.
Well, I think that's one of the things that I wanted to do with the Fremont podcast, is that I wanted it to be a place, you know, if you think about community, you can think about it in a lot of different contexts. So like you could talk about you when you think of community, I'm sure that one of the first places your mind goes to is around a table or eating or food. Although I enjoy food and I enjoy cooking from time to time, my mind goes around the idea of conversations because I really want to get to know somebody. I want to hear their story. I want to hear what makes them tick. I want to hear their passions. And I think for me, having a place where people can come together and share their stories and know why they're there, what brought them there. I think that's one of the things that I love about hearing your story is, although I didn't know anything really about Massimo's until about a year and a half ago, like as you're talking here, I'm really excited about bringing my wife here, about bringing my family here and being able to share in the experience that you laid out for me as part of what...
The greatest night in this, to me, the most special night is Christmas Eve.
Okay.
And I tell you, we were never open on Christmas Eve. We were never open for years. And it just so happened we had this group one night that wanted to have a party here on New Year's Eve, and we said, it's Christmas Eve. So we said, okay, we'll open up for Christmas Eve. And I did it, and now it's one of our best nights. But what I love about Christmas Eve, and I've had it, is you get families, people that kids who grew up here but now have moved away, but they come back. It's like going to church on Christmas.
Yeah, nostalgia.
Like when you go to church on Christmas, a lot of people they only go to church on Christmas and Easter or whatever, but when you go to church on Christmas, especially you go to the church that you grew up in, you see people that you haven't seen for years, but they come back to visit their parents, whatever they're there. Yeah. The same thing happens here on Christmas Eve. All these people that we don't see, all of a sudden they show up on Christmas Eve and they're here. And it's like, it's just such a special, and like Thanksgiving too. Thanksgiving, we're open on Thanksgiving, and again, the families and the people that you grew up with that have been there, they come here, and it's so great when you get to see these people.
I love that. That's awesome. Well, I'm excited about bringing my family here, and I love hearing your story because I think that that's something that our community needs to hear. I hope that by being able to share this, that people will pay more attention to the restaurant, and I hope that the vision and the experience that you have that you want to bring to our community is something that will spread, because I do think that we need we need more of the sense of community that you have experienced in this place for so many years. There are new people coming along as well that have a very similar story already. You know, it's in its early stages, right? But they're going to have a story that's going to be told decades from now as to how they came into Fremont. But I think that we've got to pass that baton. I think we've got to have a place like Massimo's that's here, that's been established, that continues on, and it continues doing what it's done for decades. And then we've got to have other people to have a vision for the same sort of community and the same sort of magic, I guess, that you bring to the community, and be able to carry that same thing on. One thing I tell my
staff is, I tell my staff, we use a reservation system, and I tell my staff to take notes on the guest. You know, remember their favorite cocktail, remember what table they like to sit at, who their favorite server is, when their birthday. get to know the guests the best you can. I have a database here of just customers that I get their names, who they are. So I want to know. It's important. I mean, so many times you walk into a bar or a restaurant and you're just a number.
Yeah.
And our customers. I mean, I have one waiter that works here that he has customers that come in and before they even walk in the door, there are cocktails on.
That's awesome.
Cocktails on the table. I mean, there's one couple that comes here. They come here about twice a month. They don't even order. He just orders for them. But that's just the way it is. I mean, that's what we do here.
That's
and we
great.
want people. We want to do more. We want to do that to everybody.
Bill, thank you so much for joining me on this. This has been great, and I'm looking forward to experiencing Massimo's or Billy's Place. I'm going to start calling it Billy's Place. But I'm going to look forward to bringing back my family. And thank you for your time and sharing the story here. This has been really great.
My pleasure.
This episode was hosted and produced by Ricky B. I'm Gary Williams. Scheduling and pre-interviews by Sarah S. Rachel Prey is the print editor in charge of our newsletter. Additional reporting by Mark Emmons. Andrew Cavett is the editor. Music provided by Soundstripe.com. Be sure to subscribe wherever it is that you listen so you don't miss an episode. You can find everything we make, the podcast, our newsletter, and all of our social media links at thefremontpodcast.com. Join us next week on The Fremont Podcast.
This is a Muggins Media podcast.